This is our virtual vacation Bible school, and our memory passage for this week is Colossians 3:12. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Okay, and this is our fifth attribute. The attributes are, first of all, compassion. We saw that. Then we saw kindness, and then humility, such as Nebuchadnezzar and Moses. And we saw gentleness. The greatest person in terms of gentleness or meekness was Jesus. And now we're into patience. And we're going to use a passage from James 5:8 is pretty far back in the Bible, toward the back. You too, be patient and stand firm, because the Lord's coming is near. James 5:8 gives the illustration that a farmer's patient. He plants the crop there, and he doesn't go out the next day and harvest it. He waits until it sprouts. He waits until it grows. He waits until the harvest matures, and then he harvests it. He has to be patient. He has to wait till the right time. Now, there's lots of things we'd like to do, but we need to wait till the right time and the right circumstances and do them right. We don't want to do it wrong and hurt other people and hurt ourselves. So we have here a person called Job. Let's say a job for Job. That's spelled the same, J-O-B. Now, in the book of Job, now Psalm is in the middle of your Bible, and the book before the book of Psalm is the book of Job. And Job says a lot about suffering and enduring suffering. Job was a very wealthy man. It says that Job had a tremendous amount of flocks and herds. Let's take a look at that real quick. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters, so he had 10 kids. And he owned 7,000 sheep. That's a lot of sheep. And the sheep were used for getting the wool off of them, so that's a textile industry or clothing industry. And they're also used for meat, for food. 3,000 camels, that's like having 3,000 over-the-road trucks, because they were what you used on caravans and to go take goods and services different places. Okay, so 3,000 camels and 500 yoke of oxen. Okay, that's like having a tractor. So he had 500 yoke of oxen, which they used for, like tractors, for plowing up the ground and planting things. And he had 500 donkeys. And this type of donkey is the best riding animal in the Middle East. This is a donkey that if you rode it for many hours, you wouldn't be sore after you were done. It's got a very nice gait. Gait is the way it walks. It's very smooth. And so it's like having a Cadillac dealership or a Lexus dealership, because that's what they use those animals for, riding. It's very expensive. And so this man has got it made financially. He's got lots of things in the textile industry, for clothing. He's got the food industry. He has your trucking industry, your travel industry. He's got a lot in terms of yoke of oxen. It'd be like our saying a tractor dealership or implement dealership. So he's got a lot, and he's got 10 kids. And here's a real wonderful example of how bad things can happen to us at any time. Because there are many things in life we don't have control over. But God is able to take any circumstance and make it something beneficial. Now, Job, he loves the Lord, and he honors God. He will even make sacrifices for his family, just in case maybe they said something or did something wrong. He's concerned about the spiritual welfare of his family. And suddenly one day, a lot of catastrophe comes to his life. We read in the Bible that Job's sons and daughters were feasting and drinking at the oldest brother's house, probably a birthday celebration. Now, if it's a birthday celebration, they probably did this 10 times a year, and they had big celebration and whatnot. And while some of the oxen were plowing, the donkeys were grazing nearby, it says. Some Sabaeans, these were land pirates. They like to steal things from other people. That's not theirs. Land pirates came and took them all. They attacked, and they took all the servants that were there, were put to death, and they stole all of it. And another messenger came, and he said, now Job, that's reporting what just happened. Fire from heaven came down and burned up all the sheep and the servants. I'm the only one that left, escaped. And while he was still speaking, another one came in. The Chaldeans formed 3 raiding parties, and they swept down on your camels and made off with them. And I'm the only one that escaped alive to tell you about this. And while he was still speaking, another person came in and said, you know, your sons and daughters were having their party, and a tornado hit the house, and it collapsed on them, and they're all dead. That's a bad day. Many people would just be beside themselves. Catastrophe upon catastrophe. Not just losing his children, but many of the servants who died, he was friends with them. And this very much saddens him. Now, Job does something that's interesting. Job got up and he tore his robe, which meant, oh, I'm in such mourning. I'm so sad about this. And he shaved his head. And he fell on the ground and he said, naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised. Wow. Now, the one who caused all this behind the scenes was Satan. And he told God, if you take all this stuff away from Job, he won't like you at all. He won't trust you at all. Well, God just proved Satan wrong. He says, now you can take that stuff away from Job, but you can't take his life. And so all that stuff was taken away from Job. And Job is still there. He's lost everything. And after Job says, I'm still going to trust the Lord no matter what. Takes a lot of patience. Takes a lot of patience in the midst of disaster to trust God and realize he's still in control. And so Satan challenges God again. Satan's always trying to do something wrong. He says, well, if you take away his health, he won't trust you. And God says, yes, he will. You can go ahead and take his health away, but you can't kill him. You notice that's what's called the permissive will of God. Not all things are good, but sometimes God allows certain things to come into our life to help us grow, to help us get stronger in life. And we have this allowing Satan to do this. So Satan came and he gave a very bad illness to Job, and he had boils. He had ulcerated boils that would break open, and they'd be all pussy all over his head, all over his feet, all over his body. They're very itchy and very painful. And he's just really, really in pain. And a lot of people, they will trust God unless they get sick, unless something bad happens to their health, and then they're all upset. Well, we all eventually are going to get real sick, and we'll go to heaven. And God has a perfect plan for our future. So, here we have Job, and all this disaster comes to him. And he's there for quite a period of time, many weeks. He has to put up with his pain and the soreness. And the word got out to some of his friends in the Middle East. And so they said, well, I'm going to have to go visit Job, my friend, because terrible things have happened to him. And I'll go see if I can help him out. Well, that's a good idea. And so Job is there, and when they approach Job, these three men from different areas approach Job, they're just shocked at how terrible his condition is and how bad his ailment is. And they just sit down with him, and they don't say anything for a week. They just sit there with him for a week. Now, if they kept not saying anything, that would be to their credit. But they're thinking in their mind, I wonder what bad things Job did that God would allow this to happen. Well, the truth is, Job hasn't done anything bad or wrong. Can we be patient even when we're being wronged? Can we be patient when bad things happen to us, or the good things that we want to happen to us don't seem to come? We don't seem to get them. Other people get them, but we don't. And maybe we just want an acknowledgement. Maybe the teacher to praise us for some work we're doing, but other people seem to get praised and we don't. Well, Job's sitting there, and he's got to learn to trust the Lord. And he's trying to do this, and his friends are there, and then his friends start to speak. And they say, Job, let me speak a word to you. I think we all know that God blesses people, and he disciplines people. And he wouldn't be putting this in your life unless you had done something wrong. Now, that's what all three of them are going to say. They're going to say, oh, you're a terrible sinner. You've done wrong things. If you confess your sin, God will forgive you and he'll restore you. And Job says to them, I don't know of any bad things I've done. I've searched myself. I confess my sin when I do wrong, but I'm not aware of anything wrong. The second one speaks up and says, now, Job, don't give me that. God's not going to discipline good people. He's not going to let bad things happen to good people. But that's not true. Sometimes God allows bad things to happen, but he always helps us out through it. And he always turns it around to where it should be. Sometimes the bad things in our life are the only thing that wake us up and help us to trust the Lord in our life. Well, the second friend says, no, Job, you're a bad man. I don't know what you've done, but whatever it is, you better confess it. And Job says, no, you're wrong. I haven't done anything wrong. And they speak back and forth to each other over many days. Now, the third friend speaks up and says, don't lie, Job. You're a sinner. You've done bad things. You need to confess your sin. And you need to do it now. And Job says, I'm telling you, I'm not aware of anything I've done that's wrong. If I were aware of it, I would confess it before God. And then they start again. And Job says, boy, you guys aren't much help to me. He says, fine comforters you are. If you had said nothing to me, that would have been better than what you're doing. Never pick on somebody for something you think is wrong in their life. You don't know their situation. You don't know what they've gone through. Be a friend and help them no matter what. But don't drag them down. Don't assume you know what's going on inside their heart. And they go through this 3 different cycles, these guys. And Job just says, no, it's not a case of having confessed my sin. I sure wish I could make my case before God and show my innocence and whatnot. And God, toward the end of the book here then, he comes in a storm cloud to talk to Job. And he tells Job, well, now where were you when I made the earth? Where were you when I put the stars in space? Where were you when I created these different animals? And Job, he says, well, I don't know any of that. So obviously, my knowledge isn't as great as God's knowledge. I spoke in haste. I kind of criticized God for not getting me out of this when God knows what he's doing, even if I don't. Just because I don't understand something doesn't mean God doesn't. Just because I don't understand about people doing wrong and getting away with it, that doesn't mean they're going to get away with it. God knows how to take care of them at the right time. And so God questions Job over many different issues. And Job says, I'm just going to keep my hand over my mouth. I shouldn't have said anything because God, you know what you're doing and you're the powerful one, and I shouldn't be criticizing you. And so Job turns within himself and says, I'm responsible for my critical attitude. And I'm sorry, Lord, I'm not going to do that anymore. Job becomes a much more humble man through this experience. God is always in control. Being patient and saying, Lord, I'm putting this in your hands. I'm going to trust you. And then the problem, the pain, the difficulty still stays. Well, patience is bearing up under that, continuing to trust the Lord even when difficult things happen to you. Now, the conclusion of the story is Job gets everything back and more because of his faithfulness to God. That Job prays for his three friends and offers sacrifice for them so they don't disciplined by God for the bad things they said about Job. We need to be patient when we're under suffering. If we're doing things that we don't like doing, but we can be patient still and bear up under it and say, well, this is only going to be for a little while. I know one time I was asked when I was cleaning out a place, then it was just a mess. And I was asked, well, how do you do this? How can you keep doing this? Isn't it discouraging? I said, well, the house is still going to be here, but this trash is limited. It'll all be carried out. It'll all be taken care of eventually. I just worked my way through it. Got to have a good mental attitude to be patient. You got to say, okay, my life is in God's hands. He's going to take care of it. I can trust him, so I can go ahead and do this job to the end. God is kind to us. He will never give us more to bear than we can hold up under. He will always provide ways of escape. He'll never overburden us. If we're overburdened with stuff, it's probably stuff that people or we ourselves have given to ourselves instead of God. He will never overburden us. God knows what we don't know, and he has a plan in all of this. God is in the business of making us mature, more like Jesus Christ. Good people, really good people. And patience is one of the ways that God is going to, through patience, teach us to be able to trust him in any circumstance in life. Because God loves us, he cares for us, he's going to always be with us. And the patience of Job, as it is called sometimes, is just a matter of Job learning to say, I'm going to trust you, Lord. I'm just going to trust you. We need to do that too. James 5:8. You too, be patient and stand firm. Part of patience is just staying there, just getting through it. Be patient and stand firm, because the Lord's coming is near. God is going to deliver. He's going to deliver us, whether it's from bad people, deliver us from difficult circumstances, from our own mistakes. He is a deliverer. We need to be patient. And being patient, we have one of the characteristics that Jesus said. Boy, was he patient. He put up with a lot of people and a lot of circumstances. It all turned out perfect. We too can be patient. And that's our last of the 5. Compassion toward other people, have a soul that really loves other people, wants to help other people. Kindness, actually doing something for the people that you have compassion for. And of course, humility, that's absolutely necessary. Humility is teachability, that you can be taught by others and grow up. And then, of course, meekness, as we've seen, the great characteristic Jesus had, which got him through all the difficulties in life. He was trained and disciplined to handle the situations in life. He focused his power where it needed to be. And of course, this last one we're talking about, Job showed us patience. Jesus shows us patience. And the more we are patient and put everything in the Lord's hands, the more he will do for us.